guys, it's Mark.
It's Michelle.
And we always start everything out this way. Not really.
This is Mark and Michelle.
This is Mark and Michelle. And today, we're going to continue on with the physical symptoms.
Do we have any announcements today?
I don't know, do we? Do you have an announcement?
No, I've just been reading lots of things. So
okay.
Guess not.
She reads and reads, and I read when I can. So just like she does. We're going to continue on with the physical symptoms that we've been talking about because I'm somewhat amazed at, and I've come across a lot of autistic adults who say they know their autism, but then are surprised by symptoms that are actually because of autism. So this is going to help you guys, those of you who are on the spectrum and those of you who are off the spectrum, because you may see something in your kid that makes you go, oh, wait a minute, hey. And you go get a diagnosis, or you don't go get a diagnosis and you know what? That's causing him a problem or her a problem. Let's heal it, right? That's the whole point.
You can just heal. It's pretty cool.
It is. You don't
have to know anything.
Yeah. Well, like we told a friend of ours this morning, Michelle said, yeah, you may not know what medals you have because the tests aren't accurate. And let me explain something about tests. Unless you take a biopsy, a piece of the tissue, you're not going to know exactly what metals are in that particular tissue, like brain, liver, kidneys, whatever, right? Most tests are blood tests. They only test for metals or other chemicals that are freely floating around in your blood. That's it. Because there are metals lodged in organs that are obviously not freely floating around in your blood. Right, and so that's why they would have to take samples of those tissues to test them for metals. That's why the tests aren't accurate. They're only accurate for blood. Right now, there may be tests that are accurate for some things, but it doesn't make sense that if you have metals lodged somewhere that aren't floating around, that you're getting the whole answer. Right.
And so really it doesn't matter though, because this heavy metal detox smoothie works on every metal in every place.
It does. It's the whole point of it. And the cilantro is a detoxifier along with all the other ingredients in the smoothie. And I found scientific papers on it. Even someone else, a stranger, found one, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
So from 2 years ago. So cilantro does the job. And you don't need all these complicated protocols to
You can
detox.
do that if you want to.
You can. That's your business. But I'd rather do it much faster. Some of these protocols take years. Heavy metal detox smoothie, 30 days, 2 weeks.
Mark's
30 days. Exactly. So you just, so definitely do it all naturally. So let's start with lack of spatial orientation. Yes, I definitely had this problem. And what I mean by that is knowing where I am in space, not outer space.
External matrix space.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's outer space. That's about as ambiguous and well, I don't know the word.
You're not sure what to say to that.
Yeah. You stumped me. I'm not speechless, but you stumped me. But knowing where I am, how much space I'm taking up bodily. And I think that is a function of the brain, or dysfunction of the brain, because of, well, pretty sure it's heavy metals. Because it's difficult for me, it was difficult for me to know how close I was to people, how far away I was to people, or from people.
Tripped a lot.
Tripped a lot. Ran into things a lot.
Clumsy.
While I could see, my depth perception wasn't good, undoubtedly because of heavy metals. And so if you have a child or a loved one on the spectrum who trips a lot or falls, I tripped quite a bit. And as a kid, I was clumsy with other things, dropped stuff, this type of stuff. And I also find that when we treated for strep or viruses in the past couple of years, if I had had a flare-up of strep or flare-up of viruses, I would tend to drop things much more often.
Probably nerve damage.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably need to add that.
Exactly. Well, the nerve damage because of that too. And that would be a viral thing. So you treat for strep and viruses. The heavy metal detox smoothie also treats for strep and viruses. That's what he intended it for. But
celery juice too.
And celery juice.
It rips the outer coating off of the viruses.
Right. And so that is a problem for many who have autism. It may not be, you can't make a blanket statement for autism just like you can't make a blanket statement for anything else. One person's autism is going to be different, but you can be sure that the symptoms fall under 2 or 3 major categories, right? There's just dozens of them, it seems like, under 2 or 3 major categories. So lack of spatial orientation, knowing where my body is at and how close it was. I had trouble with that for a long time. It's much better now, but I still don't have a good sense of balance. But a ballet dancer friend of mine, she said, when I asked her, because I was curious, when you're training as a ballet dancer, can you improve your balance? She said, oh yes, there are exercises specifically for it. And because you have to be really balanced, she said, when you do ballet. So she said, there are exercises for it. And she told me where to go look. I just hadn't gone to look. So I guess my balance isn't as important as her balance is to her. So I'm all right. And it's not like I've fallen on her or knocked her over or something either. So she could probably still stand upright even if that was the case. But lack of spatial orientation can be a problem for those on the spectrum. All right. Let's see. Incorrect body language. Now, we kind of talked about this in the past. Let's talk about, for instance, when autistic people are feeling fear, how often have you seen your autistic loved one respond in a normal fear way? By wringing their hands or by putting their arms close to themselves, or that doesn't often happen. They're usually stimming in a way that NTs wouldn't interpret as fear. And so another example is high fives, low fives, fist bumps, that kind of stuff. It is so difficult, or was for me, to be able to respond to high fives or low fives or fist bumps because I never knew which a person was going to do. I couldn't see their bodily cues to be able to respond correctly. So I didn't respond correctly.
That also had to probably do with lack of spatial orientation.
Well, exactly. So I think it all ties in together. And the next thing we're going to talk about is clumsy, but I think that it all ties in with having a sensory system that is poorly functioning. Because it's not able to tell distance, it's not able to tell speed of how fast you're moving, because as she described one time, we went somewhere.
She being Michelle.
Because I pointed at her.
For podcasters.
Okay, well, right, all right. I'm pointing at Michelle. And but we went somewhere, and she pointed out that I went to a store, and I was talking to somebody, and I was waving my hands around like a squirrel. And she said I looked like I was on crack or meth or something because I just looked crazy waving my arms all around. And I didn't know I was doing that. And so what I find interesting about that is that I didn't know I looked crazy, and I didn't remember myself waving my arms around or how fast I was moving. And I had very jerky movements, which I realized scared animals. Mm-hmm. Pets, strange dogs that I came upon. Not that they were wearing some top hat.
Strange dogs, or were they strangers?
They were strangers, not strange dogs. But strangers, I guess, could be strange dogs. But anyway, but that would make dogs nervous that I didn't know, that were unfamiliar with me. And working at the zoo, that was a problem. because one time I was waving my arms around to not get stung by a bee, and I scared a giraffe that they were trying to feed, and he stepped on an ostrich. And that was a problem. That got me into some trouble. I mean, I didn't get fired or anything, but I got a stern talking to, you know. But I didn't realize that that would be a problem. But after working at the zoo, I realized that you couldn't do the same things around me that you couldn't do around the animals. Waving your arms, moving quickly, because that would scare the animals. It scared me too. And it was only when I worked at the zoo that I realized that. And I thought, I wonder what's up with me. And it would be within a year that I realized I had autism. Actually, it would have been within a few months, because that was in March of April of 2011. And then by July of 2011, on our wedding anniversary, I realized that that was the case. And so we spent the day talking about that. And that was the beginning of my journey out of it, because I realized I had it then. Then I got a diagnosis the next year. Then the next year, we started recovering. But realizing that there were a lot of things you couldn't do around me and you couldn't do around wild or zoo animals was very telling. And I finally figured out, oh, that's why. So let's see. Incorrect body language is a constant problem because they will never respond. I think most autistic people just won't respond in a way that you understand as an NT with their body language, because they just don't know how to. Their brain doesn't interpret it correctly. And I didn't, and I've seen others who don't. So when we ran our support group for autistic adults, a lot of times they didn't respond with correct body language. As Michelle can tell you, she was the only NT in the group. So, all right, clumsy. Yes, we don't really need to talk about this one much because we've already talked about it in the lack of spatial orientation. But dropping things, tripping over things, running into things, I did that a lot. And that can be a danger. You know, lack of spatial orientation can be a real danger when you're driving. I just now realized that. And that may be why I was a scary driver.
He was scary. I often drove.
Yes.
I mostly drove.
She drove in self-defense.
Yes.
And so...
let's talk a little bit about driving.
Okay. Well, driving for me was scary because it just seemed so unpredictable. Well, it was unpredictable when I was autistic because I couldn't read what another driver was doing. All right. Now, where I live right now, drivers are pretty unpredictable. For what reasons, I don't know. I could say that they're sick, but then everybody's sick. So, okay, we'll go with that. And so it can be difficult to interpret drivers here in Oklahoma. In Atlanta, however, that was different.
You could die easily if you didn't follow rules.
And so you had to.
So much traffic.
So much traffic, and everybody drove.
And that's why I drove all the time, because Mark was so scary.
Well, that, and I would yell
Atlanta.
at people out the window, flip them off, and I do that now, but not like I did then. And I don't yell at them out the window or anything else, but you know.
Well, here we have open carry, so you have to be careful.
No, I don't. And so, because I don't believe in open carry. And but anyway, so I'm not as scary a driver now. I actually drive.
Yeah,
I think I drive slower now than I used to.
It's just, you know, you used to drive like this instead of letting the car just go and holding, you know. You used to do this less if you needed to do this to make the car go.
Well, mind you, I had driver's education, but I was autistic then, and that was back in the mid-'80s. So, and I'm sure very little was getting through to me.
Yeah.
And I know I scared my the other couple other students who were in the car with me and the instructor. You know, so and that was in Charlotte, North Carolina. Traffic was a little bit easier there, but Now
you drive really well.
Yeah, exactly.
He drives about half the time.
Yeah, I do. And because she doesn't feel like she has to defend herself against my driving. So
and it's just gotten better the more he's recovered.
Right. And because of being able to see what's going on around me, you know. And so clumsy, again, that's something that you'll see in your autistic loved ones, maybe. maybe not all are clumsy, but I think that probably most people on the spectrum are clumsy. So, all right, no sense of balance. Well, we've talked about that a little bit earlier on, but a sense of balance is important because I think having a poor sense of balance is what causes you to be clumsy, what causes you to drop things, what causes you to run into things. Because that sense of balance is also a mixture of seeing and the fluid levels in your ear being able to balance you.
Strep, ear infections. Strep is in your ears.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much that actually affects. Well, as you said a while ago, when you had a viral flare or a strep flare, you would drop stuff more.
Exactly.
So
all of those lack of body awareness, I think, is a mixture of heavy metals and strep and viruses, those infections. And, it just, it compounds over time as you get older. My symptoms got worse as I got older.
Yes.
And I think that is
as he ate worse things, too.
Well, exactly. But then I didn't eat better things because I didn't know what they were.
Right.
It's not like I go, I want to go on a fruit binge. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
An ice cream binge? Yes. A smoked pork binge? Yes. French fries? Yes. Chocolate? Yes. Crap for a poorly working body, And so now, having come out of that, I go, yeah, I'd rather have fruit than, you heard us talk a couple of days ago about having a strep flare up this past couple weeks. And it wasn't as severe as they had been, but it still did put my brain in a negative mode. And I was mad because I'm just trying to be happy, dang it. And strep can make you unhappy.
Yeah.
It turns your brain
negative.
negative.
You have depression. Really look into these infections because they can cause depression.
And so clearing that up, I don't think I ran into things, but I've never practiced balance because I didn't like gym. Well,
because you weren't balanced.
Exactly. And so I wasn't good at it because I couldn't be balanced. So I never had the physical education. Interesting that it's called physical education. It never stuck because I was autistic and couldn't balance. So none of that stuff was fun for me. Well, let's see. Physical oversensitivity. All right. What that means is, at least here's what it meant for me. Very light touches, like one of our.
Okay, apparently that still bothers him.
Well, it does because it's too light, right?
I was just showing them.
Well, you did show them, and you got the reaction.
Ow!
And I got pointy elbows.
You do.
Don't make me sharpen them.
He has pointy elbows.
Don't make me sharpen them. And but one of our cats, she used to come up and sniff me really light. Man, I hated that. And apparently would still hate it.
Apparently.
But
wow, that hurt.
Oh, poor sweetie. Here, come here. There
you go.
That'll make it all better. Yeah. So yes, we're funny. But physical oversensitivity, clothes that scratch too much, tags in the backs of clothes. Those would just annoy me to no end.
Socks.
Yeah, depending on the socks.
Some people hate socks.
Yeah, and so physical, your skin is just so sensitive that you can't stand. It's probably why I hear stories about very young autistic kids taking off all their clothes and running around the house. It's because they can't stand the clothes.
Yeah,
they're oversensitive to the clothes. And so that physical oversensitivity can be a problem.
Let's stop.
Yeah, let's stop here. We will continue on tomorrow. We've got 3 more symptoms to go.
3 more physical symptoms.
Then we're going to start talking about the glossary, different terms in the autism culture, and we're going to go through, and that's also in our free ebook.
Right.
Called,
so this list is free in our ebook called Buried Alive: One Man's Journey Out of Autism. You can get it at www.healyourautism.com.
You can, and then once you read our book and know you're going to heal, right? You go on to the next page and you order our book, Heal Your Autism's Do-It-Yourself Guide, Healing Begins in Your Kitchen, which is our detox/healing guide and shows you how we got to where we are now and how you can get there too.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people say one size doesn't fit all, but I want to tell you what, this medical medium diet is the closest thing I've seen to one size fits all.
We've seen amazing things.
And not just with autism and fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue and that kind of thing. It's helped many cancer. I think there's 1 or 2 stories of people who are literally in their last week of life with cancer and started doing this diet and reclaimed their health and everything from literally the last few days of their lives. So
it's a pretty cool thing, guys.
It is. And
our book has been described as, you read all the medical medium books for us. So we want you to read the medical medium books. But if you don't have time, or if your brain doesn't write, and you don't feel good about reading, the book that we've written is really organized.
Yes.
Here's this. Here's this. It's very simple to read.
It is. So continue on with celery juice. Continue on with the heavy metal detox smoothie. Continue on with the lemon water. We've already talked about the 2 books on the website. Well, so we'll skip that and we'll go right on to this. You're going to have questions about healing that you need answered, that you won't find, you may not find in the books. So that's why you come to us next and we talk about coaching, whether it's personal one-on-one coaching or group coaching, because we do both weekly, sometimes daily, and we'll handhold you where you need to get to. All right, to get to your health. So anyway, we'll see you tomorrow, guys.
Okay, have a great day.
Y'all too. Bye bye.